Hello, welcome. I'm Meg from Flow Financial Planning, and thank you for joining me this month. Today, I wanted to tell a story about a conversation I had with my sister-in-law a few years ago when I was launching this firm. And to start off with, I have to say that my sister-in-law is one of my idols when it comes to making decisions with her finances and in her life in a way that really just maximizes the joy that she gets out of life. Um, so as I'm explaining to her, she lives in Canada, so I think financial planning maybe isn't like as big a thing in Canada. And so I'm telling her about how, yes, people are actually going to pay me so I can help them make financial choices. And she said, more or less, honestly, Meg, I don't understand why anyone would pay you for that. And I had been in the profession for a while by then, so I didn't understand how she couldn't understand because the value to me was so obvious. I mean, she understood the sort of why someone would pay you to help with your investing because that's sort of arcane and technical, but the rest of it she just didn't grok. But as we talked further, it became clear to me why she in particular might not really get much value out of financial planning, but why so many other people would. In particular, I really enjoyed our conversation about our sort of physical relationship to money. And what I mean by that is, well, let me tell you a story about my sister-in-law, which is she's in her mid-50s, and she had a fairly short sort of traditional 9 to 5 working life. And so during that short working life, at least a couple decades ago now probably, she got paid by physical check. Like I think when she stopped working, it was just getting into the direct deposit era. So her day-to-day relationship with money looked like this. Twice a month, she would receive a physical check. She would march down to the brick and mortar bank. She would deposit the check. She would get out very colorful pieces of money. She lives in Canada, so they are colorful there. She would take her colorful pieces of money, march to a store where she would buy groceries or clothing or tchotchkes, and exchange this physical money for her physical stuff. And there you go. She had a very tangible relationship with money, like literally tangible relationship with money. And it wasn't just her, it was sort of the generation, the sort of systems and culture in place at that time. And I think it's probably fairly obvious how different that is from how our life operates nowadays. I am going to guess that your life looks a little bit like this. Once or twice a month, your paycheck gets deposited automatically via direct deposit into your bank account. On occasion, you go out to a brick and mortar store to buy groceries or maybe try on clothing, go out to a restaurant. But most of your shopping you do online. You pay for a lot of your stuff with credit cards, an increasing amount of your stuff with apps that are hooked up to either your credit card or your bank account sort of on the back end. And you pay for almost nothing with cash anymore. And once a month, your credit card company automatically takes out of your bank account the money it needs to cover the bill. We have no physical relationship with our money anymore. It's completely intangible. As a result, we have sort of no notion of how money moves through our life, no notion of how much money we're spending, even. And of course, this isn't by chance. Companies long ago realized that the more they can abstract consuming and spending and buying, the more they can separate sort of the consumption from the pain of actually paying money, the more we're going to buy, the more we're going to consume. And I think that so much of the uncertainty and the stress that we feel from our financial lives is because we don't give enough time and attention to our financial choices anymore. Time and attention that used to be just sort of baked right in. It just happened by default when we had cash, when we dealt in cash or even checks. So I think it takes a hell of a lot more effort now than it did, say, 30 years ago to live a healthy financial life. I mean, there are a lot of reasons for that, and don't get me started on political commentary, but I think it's in large part because of what my sister-in-law was talking about, that we don't have a physical relationship with our money anymore, so it's too easy to not think about it. So however you choose to do it, I think we all need to think about it a hell of a lot more often. Whether that looks like something like once a year you sit down and You use Mint to look at your spending from the past year, or your bank account and credit card statements to look at your money, your spending from the last year. Or once a quarter, you bring around a little paper notebook with you and just for a few days write down everything you spend. Or even go on an all-cash diet for a few weeks. All of these things are going to force you to have that attention and consciousness that we used to just have without trying when we dealt with cash. So yeah, this kind of is an effort that's never going to end. You're going to need to repeatedly come back to this, repeatedly force yourself to be conscious about the money choices you're making, because the system is set up to make it real easy, to make it easiest to not be conscious. But being not conscious about your money choices is a recipe for disaster. So with a little bit of ongoing effort, I think you can be a lot more content with the financial choices you make, and a lot more confident that you're making the right choices for your life, and a lot more joyful about the life that you actually get with your money. So again, this is Meg from Flow Financial Planning. I hope this inspired a little thinking on your part, and I will see you next month.